Picture a young woman with everything to live for. Shannon Melendi, born October 20th, 1974 in Miami, was the embodiment of the American dream. A straight-A student, champion debater, and so exceptional she'd addressed both Congress and the United Nations before her high school graduation. Her acceptance to Emory University on a $15,000 annual scholarship was just the next step toward her destiny until March 26, 1994, when destiny betrayed her. That Saturday began like any other. Shannon arrived at the softball field by 8:40 a.m. to keep score, a part-time job she'd taken to help with expenses. By noon, her shift ended. Witnesses saw her leave. She likely stopped at her usual gas station for a soda. But what happened next would become Georgia's most haunting mystery. Her black Nissan 280ZX, a gift from her doting parents, was found hours later, parked carelessly at that same gas station. Keys in the ignition. Doors swung open. Purse undisturbed. To Atlanta police, this suggested a teenage runaway. To those who knew Shannon, the honor student who treated her car like a treasure, the responsible young woman who called her parents weekly, every detail screamed that something unspeakable had occurred. The nightmare had begun, but the worst horror was yet to come. While police clung to their runaway theory, Shannon's parents launched a crusade that would expose fatal flaws in the investigation. Her father, a man of quiet determination, bypassed bureaucratic inertia by renting stark black and white billboards along Atlanta's busiest highways. Missing. Shannon Melendi screamed the bold lettering above her smiling photo, with his personal phone number and a $10,000 reward offer. Meanwhile, Shannon's roommate Athena organized student volunteers who papered the city with over 50,000 flyers, their photocopied images of Shannon fading under the Georgia sun. Then came the psychological torture, 2 chilling phone calls that still haunt investigators decades later. The first caller, his voice eerily calm, corrected media reports about Shannon's outfit that day. She was wearing blue shorts, not green, he whispered, revealing knowledge only the kidnapper or Shannon herself could possess. The second call, placed from a Burger King payphone near Hartsfield Airport, promised material proof and delivered. In a grimy parking lot, detectives found Shannon's delicate ring wrapped in Delta Airlines branded parts bagging, the same industrial material used by aircraft mechanics. This macabre breadcrumb trail led investigators to an unsettling realization: the predator wasn't some shadowy stranger, but a familiar face at Shannon's last known location, Calvin Butch Hinton, the 33-year-old married umpire who'd been acting strangely at that fateful softball game. Behind his facade as a church-going family man and Delta Airlines mechanic lay a history of violent predation that police had tragically overlooked. The deeper detectives dug into Calvin Butch Hinton, the more a terrifying pattern emerged: not just an umpire with poor social skills, but a calculating predator who had been honing his craft for nearly 2 decades. Multiple witnesses from that final softball game described his unsettling behavior, lingering near Shannon's scoring table, making inappropriate comments masked as jokes, his eyes tracking her movements with disturbing intensity. His abrupt departure that day now took on sinister meaning. He'd first claimed a family emergency, then changed his story to car trouble, each alibi collapsing under scrutiny. The full picture revealed a man whose criminal career began at just 17, when he'd broken into his employer's home and attempted to bind the man's wife at knife point, a case dismissed as youthful mischief. In his 20s, he'd lured his brother's ex-girlfriend to his home under false pretenses, restraining her in his basement for hours in an attack that should have put him away for years, yet resulted in just 18 months served. Most chilling of all? During that interrogation, he'd hinted at 2 others, victims unknown. Now, with Shannon's disappearance, investigators faced a maddening dilemma. They knew Hinton was responsible, but without physical evidence or a body, Georgia law made prosecution nearly impossible. That changed when fellow inmates began coming forward. One described Hinton waking in a cold sweat, screaming that the demons made me kill her. Another recounted his boast that Shannon's remains had been scattered to the wind, while a third reported Hinton's sickening classroom explanation of how to get away with murder: no body, no case. These jailhouse confessions, combined with the mountain of circumstantial evidence, would become the key to unlocking justice. The prosecution built their case brick by brick with evidence that painted a portrait of a meticulous killer. That innocuous-looking roll of duct tape used to wrap Shannon's ring? Forensic analysis revealed it was industrial-grade material identical to the specialized tape used by Delta Airlines mechanics. the same department where Hinton worked every day. The cloth pouch holding the ring? Exclusive to Delta's aircraft parts inventory. Even the microscopic metal flakes embedded in the tape were traced to aircraft components. Then came the grisly discovery in Hinton's backyard: 3 shallow graves containing not human remains, but what investigators believe to be trophies. Women's clothing in various sizes, softball scorecards from games he'd officiated, and a blood-stained sleeping bag. The most damning evidence, however, came from Hinton himself. His jailhouse boasts about getting away with murder if there was no body. In 2004, after an emotionally charged trial, a jury made legal history by convicting Hinton of first-degree murder in Georgia's first successful no-body homicide case. But just when the story appeared over, Hinton staged a shocking courtroom confession in 2006, providing grotesque details about burning Shannon's body in a backyard fire pit. A story forensic experts immediately debunked, noting it takes temperatures over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit sustained for hours to reduce a body to ashes. The timing raised suspicions: was this a death row conversion, or a calculated ploy for parole consideration? Most chilling of all, investigators discovered Hinton had already selected his next victim, his wife's best friend, canceling his planned attack only when she declined to visit. Now, as Hinton becomes eligible for parole in 2025, Shannon's family maintains a vigil, knowing the true scope of his crimes may never be known. The women's clothing buried in his yard came in different sizes and styles. Were these the forgotten victims of a serial killer who operated in plain sight for 2 decades? The answers may have died with Shannon Melendi, whose remains have never been found, leaving only questions in the Georgia clay where a monster walked free for too long. Asterisk.